You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Dave, you and I think, have the same thought about this game for the New York Jets as our colleagues Michael Kay and Don LaGreca do, because I feel like it's almost the only way to look at it from a macro standpoint. And I know that we both feel somewhat similar about this just from talking before the show. If they lose this game, the season totally spirals out of control.
It can.
Yeah.
Well, you go to 1-7. Look, there's no way the Jets' record, at least for a long time, Ryan, is going to be serviceable. But 1-7 is just awful. This is a game. You look at this game. I mean, you run through the early games that they had. It was the Bears, Cutler. It was the Lions, Stafford. It was Peyton. It was Brady. It was tremendous quarterbacks that they went up against earlier on in the season. This is Kyle Orton. This is no C.J. Spiller. This is no Fred Jackson. This is what Bryce Brown and Anthony Dixon. I know the Bills are 4-3. I'm not sure how the Bills are 4-3. I know they are. The only guy that really scares me on that offense is Sammy Watkins. This is, and I can't believe I'm saying because it sounds weird, and I think you feel the same way. This is a huge game for the Jets, right?
You know, it's not a huge game.
I think it is.
Why is it a huge game? Is their season over?
Yes.
Then it's not a huge game.
But I think it is, because if you lose this game, how can you sell me? And maybe you can't already, but how can you sell me that Rex Ryan comes back next year if he can't beat the Buffalo Bills at home and he's the head coach of a team that at the halfway point of the season is 1-7?
See, I agree with you that it does not help his cause moving forward. So for him, it's a huge game. You know, making the second half of this season somewhat representative is a big deal for Rex Ryan.
And that starts on Sunday.
Agree. But for the franchise's season, for the 2014 season, I don't know if there are any big games left. I just think that if you lose this one, it spirals into absolute dread. We're talking
then
about.
Doesn't that make this a big game? You don't want to spiral. Think of that. Spirals into absolute dread?
Because that may be the best thing for this franchise. Like, I'd be curious. At 1-800-919-3776 on the Maserati of Morris County hotline. And tweet at us, at Rothenberg ESPN, at Ryan Ruocco. If Jets fans at this point would rather maybe go 2-14 and have the highest pick possible.
Not if you want Rex Ryan, though.
Well, that's true. That's true. If you want Rex Ryan to stick around, you're probably not going to be able to endure that. You're probably going to have.
There's no way.
Yeah, no,
you can't.
You have to be somewhere around
3-13 or 4-12. I mean, you'd be the laughing stock of the NFL if you brought a coach back that hasn't made the postseason 4 years in a row and goes whatever would be the record this year.
So what do you think is best for this organization? To have the highest draft pick possible?
Yes.
And not bring back Rex?
Yes.
Okay, then if you're a Jets fan, according to you, you should be rooting for losses then.
Yeah, but you can't do that. Yes, in a perfect world, if you took emotion out of it, you root for a loss. But you can't. Have you ever rooted for one of your teams to lose?
Yeah.
What?
When the Giants were out of it, I thought they were better off having losses rather than wins.
So like last year when the Giants
they lost that game to the Cowboys after they'd given us a flicker of hope in the division, once they lost that game, I said, okay, I want them to lose every game.
So the Giants
go
into Detroit and win that game in overtime. You're like, oh, for God's sakes.
No, I'm not upset about it, but I'm just like, if I am actually watching the game, I am going to be rooting for my team.
Right.
Agreed. But if I am just, say, going on Gamecast and I'm not invested in that sense where I'm really watching it, I'm just kind of finding out about it, then I am kind of hoping they lose for the future of the organization. Now, this is what I would say, though. The one thing I do as a fan is I hold on to that hope that they could somehow pull off the football miracle until the very last second. 6 losses. If the Jets were to run the table, I'm not saying they're going to. I know.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to let you go.
No, because here's the thing. The Jets, I know they're not running the table. I know they're not. I know it. But as a fan, as long as there's that Hail Mary possibility still actually possible, I'll root for my team. So until I see them get the 7th loss, where I know, or the 8th loss, I'll still be hoping they win games. And so maybe that's why this game feels big for Jets fans, because if you're not going to win this one, it's going to get ugly.
If you're not going to win this one, you're going to be a 3-win team.
Yeah, I agree. But if you were being on a totally sober mind and you were forgetting about that Hail Mary, you probably are better off losing right now.
I'm not saying you're not better off losing, but you can't go into a game against Buffalo and not want your team to win. And you know what? I think the majority, and you do also, of Jets fans love Rex Ryan and want him back.
Yeah.
You can't make that argument. If this team collapses, I mean, it's already been a horrendous opening 7 games. If this team collapses and finishes 2-7 over the final 9 or something, you can't make the argument that Rex Ryan should be back for another year.
No.
You can't.
And I wonder if that's even what Jets fans wanted. Like, if you put on the table for Jets fans, they could go 8-8 now this season, which means, they'll have won the 7 of their final 9 games, and they get to keep Rex Ryan, and they end up with a middle first-round pick, or they go 3-13 and have the 3rd pick of the draft and get a new head coach. I wonder which one is more attractive. Yeah, you know what? I am going to ask them. Which one's more attractive to you guys? 3-13, top 3 pick, new head coach, or 7-9, or what did I say?
7-9. 7-9, because 8-8 is unrealistic.
Is 8-8 unrealistic?
8-8 means that they go 7-2.
Well, but they do have a lot of winnable games the rest of the way. I mean,
you know what? Fine. For
go
argument's sake, I'll give you 8-8.
Just for argument's sake, I think all this is going to be moved. They'll probably win 6 games. But what would you rather than be? 8-8, keep Rex, middle first round pick, or 3-13, lose Rex, top 3 pick? Which one would you guys choose? At 1-800-919-3776 on the Maserati of Morris County hotline. Here's Marty Morningweg talking about his new weapon, Percy Harvin.
Well, he certainly is a talented young man. He's worked very hard since he's been here. Sharp young man. He's just getting himself sort of integrated right now. So we'll see. Let's get to game day here. We've got another day and a half here, and we'll see how he can integrate himself for us.
Are you excited to see Percy?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
no, you're not.
Yeah, I guess. Not really. I mean, it's no, not really.
You know what? This season, it's E. Penske tweets at me and he says, "You sound like a fool. Who the hell wants their team to lose? Draft picks can miss. Wins over losses every day and twice on Sunday." Well, I mean, they play on Sunday, but I agree. You can't really watch your team and actively root against them as you're watching them. So that's what I'm saying. If you're kind of removed and you're like, hey, it's better if we lose, and then you're kind of just checking the score and you're losing, you're like, all right, good. That's kind of, but you're not at that point yet because you're still mathematically alive. And here's the one thing I'd say, and this is where Percy Harvin comes into play. Does the season just become about evaluating Geno? Is that now the point of the 2014 season?
It's Rex. What are the questions now? Rex, is he going to return? Geno, is he going to be back? Percy Harvin, is he going to return? Right, you've already locked up Jeremy Curley. What are you going to do with Muhammad Wilkerson? I imagine he's going to get a long-term deal. Those are your questions now. So let's be honest, Ryan, that the postseason is probably not going to happen.
No, it almost is certainly not going to happen. So do you look at this season and say, okay, I am now watching solely to evaluate whether or not Geno Smith can be my guy moving forward?
Well, I think if you're a fan, you watch because that's what you do. Like if you're a diehard fan of a team, you watch because that's your DNA. So I think that's something separate. But one of the things that you look for when because I mean, I don't even always want to watch the Giants, but it's just because that's who I am. If I don't watch them, I would have a seizure and completely fall apart.
Yeah, you would.
So I really would. So I think that Geno is big, but you know what really scares me? What happens if he shows you whatever that cutoff is? What happens if he shows you just enough to warrant a 3rd year?
That's scary.
It's scary. Look, I've seen enough of him, I believe, already, and this could change, but in my estimation right now, I've seen enough to believe that he's not a legitimate starting quarterback in this league to take me where I want to go.
Okay. The problem is, how do you get that guy? It's not easy to find that guy.
You go 3-13.
Exactly.
It's how you get it.
Exactly. Otherwise, you have a very difficult chance of finding that guy. Ruocco and Rothenberg with you on ESPN New York, 98.7 FM. Let's see what Andrew in Staten Island thinks about our proposal. All right, Andrew, this team can go 3-13, let a top 3 pick and lose its head coach, or win 7 of its final 9 games, keep the head coach, and have a middle first-round pick. What are you choosing?
I'm choosing 3-13 or new head coach. I'm just over the whole Rex Ryan era.
Why?
Because every year...
Whoa, I don't know what happened.
Where'd he go?
We lost it. He just sounded like all of a sudden someone stepped on his face and just...
That would be unfortunate. By the way, I don't know if this guy ever tweets to you. He's a miserable human being.
Who?
Walter Mayo.
Oh, my God.
Just the worst. But he tweets to me, we certainly know that neither of you guys were ever athletes. You have no idea what competition is, do you? You don't lose games on purpose. We did not say, we're saying as a fan, as someone who's not involved with the team. And yes, actually Ryan was, and I also was a pretty competitive athlete back in the day.
My
but
gosh.
it's just such nonsense.
I love when people say something like that. Like, just totally twist your words, you fool. Just totally take what we're saying out of context. Talking about it as a fan. Of course, you're not going to try and lose if you're on the field,
right.
You moron.
You're Calvin Pryor. You're not going to lose the games on purpose. You're Calvin.
You don't
Pace.
even know if you're going to be there next year. You're
ridiculous.
not invested in the future of the franchise in that regard if you're a player. But neither one of us said that. My gosh.
But something nice for being in our seat or as a fan is you can take a different tack than you would as a player.
Right. You're never going to try and lose games on purpose if you are in a league that does not have guaranteed contracts, not to mention just your competitor taking the field.
Regardless of guaranteed contracts or not, none of these guys are going to lose games on purpose.
Agreed. You're never going to, but it just further emphasizes the point, okay? It just further emphasizes no player is ever taking the field trying to lose because they want a higher draft pick. They're not doing that because you're a competitor. That's not what we're suggesting. We're saying as a fan, what are you rooting for?
Yeah, what would you prefer? Would you prefer another one of these 8-8? We don't know where we are. We have a quarterback we're not sure about, and Rex comes back, and there's, a lot of questions with him. Or would you rather say, you know what, this thing really is broken. We're 3-13, we're bad, and we need huge changes.
I can't stand when people do that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. It's Friday. You should be in a good mood.
I wasn't a good mood. Something got me in a great mood
By
this
the
morning.
way.
What?
I get to pick the music today.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because why?
I wasn't going to go there. Should I go there?
Yeah.
Because who won the showdown this week?
You won the showdown.
Because I won the showdown this week.
That's right. John in the car. John, you're on the Maserati of Morris County hotline.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. As a diehard Jets fan, I couldn't even sit here and fathom and say I want my team to lose. But at the same time, I don't think there's anyone in the draft coming out that's going to be willing to save our franchise. So is it worth it? Overall, I think Todd Gurley's going to go number one. Are we going to go running back first overall if we get the first overall pick?
Well, I don't know. I think it depends on.
First of all, Todd Gurley's not going to go number one. No. All right, there's no chance. Running backs don't go that high anymore. We haven't seen a running back go number one in forever. One of those quarterbacks will go one. An offensive lineman will go one. You'll see Winston go up high. You'll see Mariota go up high. You might see Hundley go up high. And I'm sure that there's some huge left tackle in the SEC or the Big 12 that's going to go up high also.
Yeah, look, I mean, honestly, if you're going to have a chance at Mariota, you are, or Jameis Winston, depending on. I still want to see what Kuiper thinks about. Forget the stupid off-field stuff, okay? I want to see what he just thinks about him as a football player moving forward. But I mean, if you have a shot at one of those guys, that's a franchise changer. That's what solves your problem and brings you into an era when, as long as you're not totally incompetent, you should have sustained competitive teams when you have the quarterback.
If you have the guy for 10 years, you should be very competitive for 10 years. I mean, we do this all the time. Look at the best teams in the NFL. What's the one thing they all have in common?
Great quarterback.
Yeah.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I am so excited.
What are you so excited about?
9:30 a.m. Sunday morning, there is football. I'm so jazzed up about this because anybody who's traveled to the West Coast on a Sunday knows one of the great parts about being on the West Coast on a Sunday is waking up and having football on basically instantly.
Right. I agree with that, but here's the difference. You're out on the West Coast. You're watching football. You start at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? Your games start at 10, which means you have to get up and active in lineups and pre-games in the 9 o'clock hour, right? Mm-hmm. What time are they over then? What time are the games over out there?
No.
What time if they're starting at 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
Then your late games are 1.
Yeah, everything's over at about 8:30 out there.
Over at 8:30.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Look at what we have now this weekend.
Right.
So if you're a parent, if you're a dad, you're a mom, but a parent on a Sunday morning, you're supposed to say, starting at 9, I'm done from now until midnight?
No. The first game is a luxury. It's like, you know what it is? It's the food that is placed out on the table for the arrival on Thanksgiving. It's not something that's supposed to hold your attention and definitely be eaten. But if you want to pick at it, go ahead. It's here for you. That's the 9:30 game on Sunday.
Pick. See, that's the issue.
Well,
I have an eating disorder.
Well, and you know what? And that's why all of a sudden you're trying to shed a few pounds.
Well, but that was an analogy.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I have a disorder where, like, if a game is on, I have to watch the whole thing. I binge on football.
But that's a Dave problem.
But I don't think it is.
No, it is. I think, you know what? Can we take a poll from our audience right now?
Of course, take a poll.
Let's take a poll on Twitter with the hashtag 930, okay? That's the number 9, the number 3, and the number 0 all together.
Thank God you let everybody know about that. Otherwise, mass confusion would be going over the tri-state area right now.
So tweet at Rothenberg ESPN, at Ryan Ruocco with the hashtag 930 and the hashtag Team Ruocco if you like the idea of having a 9:30 a.m. game Sunday. The hashtag Team Rothenberg if you don't. Okay, I am curious because I think most people are going to like this. You wake up, you want to watch it, great. You have Falcons-Lions. That's a good game. It's not a bad game. It changes
everything. That's what it does. That's what I don't like. I'm a creature of habit. I'm used to the 1s, the 4s, the 8:30s. I don't like the Japanese, baseball games when they go over to Japan and they play at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's weird. It's different. It's uncomfortable. Great. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I think this is terrific.
So now you better have your fantasy football lineup set at 9:30 in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson makes that tricky for me, too, because he's questionable. Bill and Ramsey. Bill, you're on the Maserati of Morris County hotline.
Hey, how are you?
Good,
what's up, Bill?
So I wanted to give a different take on this whole discussion about tanking the season and all, which I absolutely am against.
Well, we didn't say tank the season, Bill. Let me just clarify that. We know the Jets are going to try very hard to win football games. We were purely talking about from a fan perspective what you should be rooting for. But go ahead and give your different perspective, Bill.
And I understand that, and that's just because the odds on the draft picks are lower than 50% for you to hit. The last year, obviously, we had Clowney, which was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. But,
you don't even know that right now. The guy hasn't played one game in the NFL.
And that's my point. The year before was Eric Fisher. We've had guys like Sam Bradford, even Stafford. What has he really done? Jamarcus Russell. You don't know that Winston isn't Jamarcus Russell. I just want to make the point that there's other options. We can look to, for example, we can look at people's practice squads right now. There's guys in Denver. There's a guy named Zach Dyser. He's a lot of people have talked about him as somebody that's learned from Peyton Manning, that's really improved since he's been there in 2 years. We could pick him up right now.
I know who you're talking about. I think he went to Oklahoma State. But give me a break. Really? If I told Jets fans your starting quarterback next year is going to be Zach Dyser, do you think that's going to really get people excited?
I understand your point, but let me just make the point. This year we have two first rounders, Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater playing, and Derek Carr in the second round. And then we have essentially a rookie, even though he's in his third year, Austin Davis playing. And Austin Davis is playing far better than any of the first-round guys.
You think if you asked any GM in this league, would you rather have Blake Bortles or Austin Davis, they would take Austin Davis?
Well, if you asked the guys 15 years ago if you would have had Kurt Warner or, name somebody who flamed out 10, 15 years ago. It's same thing with Tony Romo.
I get you, but you know what? Here's my issue.
Other options.
Here's my issue, okay? I think it's pretty much apparent that you can't win in this league unless you have a really good quarterback, and the Jets haven't had a really good quarterback in a really long time. So,
well, let me just make this point.
Go ahead.
What Seattle did, I would like to make 2 points if I could. What Seattle did was they paid a bunch of money to Matt Flynn. Everyone made fun of them for that. And then they took a third-round guy named Russell Wilson. As we all know what happened there. They allowed the competition to play out. Instead of just selecting a guy, you're the guy, and making him the pick. That's what they're doing with Geno. Let the competition play out. Get 2 or 3 guys instead of putting all your eggs in one basket with one guy.
But Bill, hold on a second, though, man, and thanks for the call. But that's what the Jets did with Michael Vick and Geno Smith. If Michael Vick blew them away in training camp, he was going to be their starter. He'd have to blow them away because Geno was going in with the scales tilted heavily in his favor. But he didn't blow them away. You're right. We've seen quarterbacks get picked later in the draft before and have success. Ben Roethlisberger later in the first round. Aaron Rodgers later in the first round. But you have a much greater chance of finding that home run at the position if you're picking earlier in the draft.
Of course you do. Look at again, on a small sample size, you can find Tom Brady, you can find Kurt Warner, you can find Austin Davis. But when you really look at the big sample size, Terry Bradshaw was the number one pick in the draft. Peyton Manning was the number one pick in the draft. Eli Manning was the number one pick in the draft. Phillip Rivers was the number 4 pick in the draft. Roethlisberger was a top 10 pick. Guys are traditionally taken very high. By the way, I got to give you credit, my friend.
Yeah?
Yeah, the tweets are pouring in.
I'm crushing it.
Crushing me.
Yeah.
Can I run through just a couple?
Yeah, run through a couple.
All right.
I stopped voting. When I last saw it, I had about 85% of the vote.
I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I love football in the morning. I wouldn't change my fantasy team before the games anyhow. This is not an issue. Team Ryan. Dave, you're a great guy, but you're extremely overboard when it comes to football and Giants losses. Last Sunday, 9:30, Team Ruocco. Last Sunday when the Giants lost, I didn't get to sleep till 2 a.m., so I want to watch games earlier, so I'm done with it earlier. I did get a couple.
Lauren, Alyssa was on your side, and Lauren Korsh, she said, no way, no thanks, I got to have brunch first.
See, the females are on my side.
Women love brunch. And you know what? Brunch is pretty good. So
brunch is good.
I understand it.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Now, Dave, real quick, just to pay it off, because we have some breaking news, but 1 second before we get to that. My win-win thing for the Jets was just thinking about it. You know what? You root for them to win right now still. You're not mathematically eliminated. You want to see Geno develop. You're curious about Percy Harvin.
Right.
Okay. And you maybe want to keep Rex. So you win, cool. And if you don't, well, then you're just plowing towards a better draft pick. So you're in a win-win right now. You go to Sunday and you say, if we lose, it's not a bad thing. And if we win, okay. So
I guess.
So at this
the
moment,
only guy looking at the Jets finding multiple positives right now is Ryan Ruocco.
It's a win-win for you. All right, Dave, we have some breaking news. How about this? Joe Maddon, widely regarded as the best manager in baseball these days, if not the best, one of the best.
I think he's great.
He has opted out of his contract with the Rays. In a statement, Rays owner Sternberg said he tried diligently and aggressively to sign Joe to a contract extension prior to his decision, but he has instead exercised an opt-out clause and is leaving the Tampa Bay Rays immediately. Before he was hired, their winning percentage had been .401. That is so putrid. .401, they hadn't had a single 90-win season, not a single playoff appearance. With him, they were above 500, a 51.7 winning percentage, 5 90-win seasons, 4 playoff appearances.
Great manager. 2 thoughts immediately come to mind, and I want you to tell me what you think about them.
Okay.
Firstly, and I know it won't happen, you're a Yankees fan, you don't have these otherworld problems. I'm a Mets fan.
Okay.
I would, if I was Fred and Jeff Wilpon, I would be on the phone now to Joe Maddon saying, you want the job, it's yours, we will get Terry Collins out. That's my first thought. What do you think about that?
If he was willing to, yes.
Okay.
I would do it in a second.
That's my first thought. And my second thought is Don Mattingly will lose his job, and Joe Maddon will be the new manager on the Dodgers.
I agree. Andrew Friedman, who has been the GM behind the Rays.
Yeah.
Yep. He's been the architect behind the Rays' success. He was hired by the Dodgers as their president of baseball operations. So that would be the logical choice for him to end up with. But the Dodgers just said publicly Don Mattingly's not going anywhere, and he'll be back as manager. So do they reverse course that quickly?
Well, they made that statement before I think the best manager in baseball became available.
Yeah.
I think your plans change when you have the elite manager in the game that's ready to go. And Friedman and Maddon are thick as thieves together.
Yeah, they are. They are. You're right. How about this? Very interesting. Maddon's opt-out clause triggered when Friedman left.
So he had that's very interesting. A clause in his contract that said if Friedman were to leave, that he can then opt out of his deal?
Yes.
Wow. So the Rays must have known this was going to happen.
Wow. So interesting. It'd be like if in your contract You said if Justin Craig leaves as program director, I can leave myself.
You're assuming it doesn't say that.
Oh, it does.
Of course it does.
I thought you were tied to our boss like that.
I love him. And it also says that if Ryan Ruocco were to move on, then I don't know what to do.
My guy.
Yes.
My guy. So, by the way, John Heyman just tweeted out, the early word is Maddon is not considering L.A. as an option at all. He understands Friedman is committed to Mattingly.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. If I was the Mets, I would jump on it.
Oh, I would be on the phone with him right now.
Jump on it.
But the thing is that he's interesting because he's a different kind of guy. I don't think he's a guy that needs huge money. I think if you paid him like a fair salary, that he would probably take it. I'm telling you,
Boy,
Ryan,
I'll tell you what, though, man. He has an opportunity to cash in right now.
But I wonder how important the money. Look,
he loves
not going to
red
pay
wine.
a minimum wage. He loves wine.
He loves red wine.
You would like him.
Probably. But you know what's funny? Don always gets on me saying I hate him because I like zing him every now and again.
You zing Joe Maddon?
Well, sometimes those guys who act like they invented baseball, I like to zing.
Come on, is he a good manager?
He's a great manager. He
overdoes it with the shift a little bit, right?
Sometimes it's just, there are things occasionally, like when he was bringing in righties to face Hideki Matsui in 2009, and Matsui was just pounding them because he had been hitting lefties as well. I was like, all right, now you're being too cute. Now you're going
Here's a simple question for you. Would you rather have him than Terry Collins?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Not even a question. Oh, I'd pay out Terry Collins' salary willingly. Yeah,
I don't know that the Mets would.
The Mets better go check on that. I like the addition of Kevin Long yesterday by the Mets, too.
We'll see.
He's a good hitting coach.
How important is a hitting coach, really?
I think he's important.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do.
You think suddenly Juan Lagares becomes a 330 hitter?
I think Curtis Granderson becomes more valuable.
Well, it can't be less.
Yeah, well, that's true. By the way, can I just say this? Peyton Manning's the MVP of the league.
Well, we're halfway through the season. Can we see a little more football?
I know. And look, it kind of is the same thing with LeBron, where any year you could give it to him, and sometimes you get voter fatigue. But at this moment, I know everybody's pointing to DeMarco Murray, and he's been great. There's no question about that. He has been terrific. But the numbers are there. And if I told you take one player for this year, you'd still probably take Peyton, right?
I think you could go either way right now. I think you can choose from three. I think you can choose DeMarco Murray. I think you could choose Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I think you can choose Peyton Manning.
I agree.
And honestly, I don't think any of the three you can argue with. Now, you look at Peyton. He's, 22 touchdowns. He's 69% completion. Remember when McAdoo came out this offseason and said that he wants Eli to complete 70%, and we 70%. That's ridiculous. So Peyton's at 69% right now.
It's unbelievable.
22 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His team's going to wind up winning, 13, 14 games. Great. DeMarco Murray, he's on pace for 2,000 yards right now.
Yeah, no, his pace will tail off because the carries are going to go down.
And they can't
Aaron
feed
Rodgers
him the ball.
has been spectacular.
Aaron Rodgers is by far the best player on that team. It's not close. And 18 touchdowns to 1 interception right now on a team that, let's be honest, if you take Aaron Rodgers off that club, where are they? So right now, you voted for any of the three, I'd be fine. Let's wait. Let's see. That's what makes this fun.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Joey Logano wins it at Kansas. Kevin Harvin wins it at Charlotte. Brad Keselowski wins it at Talladega.
Welcome to the Eliminator Round.
Martinsville, Texas, Phoenix.
The field has been cut in half. 4 will advance to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship.
8 drivers, 8 proud nations. The pressure's out there. They're feeling it. You can't afford a middle lapse.
The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup in Martinsville, presented by AutoZone. Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
The Eliminator Round is here.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Right now we bring in Breno Giacomini, offensive lineman for the New York Jets, joining us on the Maserati of Morris County hotline. Breno, when you look at your season, 1-6, do you think big picture anymore for what this season can be?
Yeah, we do. I know it's a rough start, but we have to take it a week at a time here now, and that's how we always been trying to do it. But we still look at the big picture, and and we still believe in this locker room. We still believe that we can get something done, And, but it has to start on Sunday.
When you say something done, if I said the word playoffs to you, and I know 1-6, and it's obviously been a rough start, but we know the teams you've gone up against. I mean, do you guys walk around the locker room saying one game at a time? Do you look big picture and say, we know where we'd like to get to? I mean, how hard is it to be 1-6 in the middle of the season right now?
It's tough, but the group that we have is a pretty good group. We shouldn't be 1-6. It's been a ball bounce away from a different record. It's we were zoning in on Buffalo though, and we have to go 1-0 this week, and then start stacking those up, and we'll see where this takes us.
Breno, you won a Super Bowl with Seattle. Percy Harvin was the teammate of yours. Now he's with you with the Jets. Is this a guy who can do damage to your locker room?
No, he's going to help us out, man. I know, whatever's been put behind him in his past, and I don't think he's going to do damage to our locker room. I think he's going to improve our locker room.
I want to ask you about your old locker room in Seattle. Stories coming out of Seattle this week that there's issues with Russell Wilson, and some of the players don't like him, and there's been some racial tension where he's not black enough. Any of that to you make sense, or is that stuff that you've never heard about?
From the time I was there, he was always a good guy, but I'm in a different locker room now. I don't know how Seattle is now, I still talk to some of those guys every once in a while, but I'm not in there. I can't speak to that. All I can say is when I was there, my time there, he was always a good guy, a good leader. So, I'm not going to mention any more past that because I'm not in that locker room anymore.
How about one last one for you, Breno? When you're getting ready for this game on Sunday, what's been the message from your head coach this week?
Just the same thing. We got to go out and play our style of ball. The offense, we have to keep going, build on what we did last week, and finish in the red zone and put some points on the board and keep the defense fresh and get this W. We need to go 1-0 this week, and we got to get this job done, and it starts on Sunday. We had a really good week of practice. Guys were flying around. Maybe a few extra days off helped us, but this has definitely been the best week of preparation that we've put together.
All right, Breno. Well, good luck on Sunday. We appreciate the time.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep. That's Breno Giacomini on the Maserati of Morris County hotline.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Joey Logano wins it at Kansas. Kevin Harvin wins it at Charlotte. Brad Keselowski wins it at Talladega.
Welcome to the Eliminator Round.
Martinsville, Texas, Phoenix.
The field has been cut in half. 4 will advance to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship.
8 drivers, 8 proud nations.
The pressure's out there. They're feeling it.
You can't afford a middle lapse.
The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup in Martinsville, presented by AutoZone. Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
The Eliminator Round is here.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. It's time for...
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
ESPN New York's NFL Picks Extravaganza.
Are you telling me that you bet on the fight in Rocky III and that you bet against Rocky?
Featuring the Survivor Challenge.
I am the smartest man alive!
Well, Dave, we begin with the Jets. No Giant game this week. The Jets giving 3 points to Buffalo at home. Buffalo's 4-3. We keep acting like this is a game, well, the Jets, this is their best shot to win, and it probably is based off the schedule they just came off of, but it's still not going to be easy. However, I think the Jets will cover barely. I see the Jets winning this game, say 24-20, 21-17, somewhere in that range. I just think Rex Ryan still has gotten his team to play really hard the last 2 weeks against two teams that are clearly superior. And knowing that, I think that he will get them to play hard again this week, and it's a different level of opponent than what we've seen the last couple weeks. Plus, there's probably some injection of life by having Percy Harvin in the locker room now, a new toy to play with. I'll say the Jets cover the 3 points and beat Buffalo by, a touchdown or less.
All right, I don't even think it's going to be that close. I think the Jets are going to win this game comfortably. I think they're better than Buffalo. Buffalo's quarterback is not good. Their running game, look, they have weapons on this team. Named C.J. Spiller, he's not playing. Named Fred Jackson, he's not playing. We thought Manuel might be that guy. He's not playing. They've given the reins to Orton. Buffalo's defense is good, and Buffalo's defense will give the Jets' offense some fits. But I think the Jets have enough offensively. They'll get the big turnover. I'm looking at like a 21-13 kind of win for the Jets, but I don't think it'll be all that close. And I think the Jets will comfortably win and cover the 3.
What's your best game of the week?
I like my best game. You won't. I have a feeling you won't, but I really do. Saints are 2-4. They've looked terrible. We don't know about Jimmy Graham. Drew Brees doesn't look like the same guy. They collapsed up 13 last week in a game you did on ESPN Radio against the Lions. For all those reasons and more, I'll take the Saints minus the 1.5 at home against the Packers. They are a different team at home. I know the best player in all of football, maybe on the other sideline this week, but I'll take the Saints. I think they find a way, get to 3-4, and save their season. Give me the Saints minus the 1.5.
I don't like to do this. I don't like to take a bad team ever because, bad teams, really, you shouldn't have confidence in them when you're talking about a best pick.
Well, not if they're bad, no.
But my pick of the week is the Raiders getting 7 at the Browns. People were jazzed up about the Browns the way their season started because they looked at the schedule they had ahead. But last week, they lost to the Jaguars.
Well, they got destroyed by the Jaguars.
They gave Jacksonville its first win. And I think you're going to see a similar type of situation this weekend. What that showed me last week was the Browns, if they're not going to be able to take advantage of that schedule and they have the momentum going in their direction, I don't know how good they really are. And it makes me think maybe they will be that team who everybody else gets their one win against. I don't think the Raiders are going to go 0-16. I think they're going to win at some point. They've played some decently tight games against some okay teams.
They played the Chargers well.
And New England as well, and Derek Carr's looked better and better. I will say the Raiders definitely cover, or they get the 7 points.
Yeah.
And I think that the Raiders will end up losing by fewer than 7, maybe even winning the game outright. So that's my pick of the week. And
now,
Dave,
I am out of Survivor,
but I am not.
You are not. So I will give you the stage.
Dave, true or false? If our audience has been picking Survivor with me every week, they are still alive.
True.
That's right. So here we go.
Well, obviously, if you're picking because you're moving on and I'm not, then that would.
They are still alive. True or false?
Ryan?
That's right. True. That indication, that noise, it means true.
And that means Joe Panic will have a big hit tonight. Go ahead.
Okay. Dallas is my Survivor pick this week. They're at home against Washington Monday night. I still am not completely sold on Dallas being at the top of the NFC, but I do believe they will beat Colt McCoy and a pathetic Washington team. I'm glad I still have them around to use. Hopefully you do too. Dallas is my Survivor team.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Joey Logano wins it at Kansas. Kevin Harvin wins it at Charlotte. Brad Keselowski wins it at Talladega.
Welcome to the Eliminator Round.
Martinsville, Texas, Phoenix.
The field has been cut in half. 4 will advance to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship.
8 drivers, 8 proud nations.
The pressure's out there. They're feeling it.
You can't afford a middle lapse.
The chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup in Martinsville, presented by AutoZone. Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN.
The Eliminator Round is here.